right now.
All right, I just got the notice. Let me accept that.
Okay.
All right, looks like we're up to 60 folks, so that's great.
Yeah. And my bet is we'll get at least 5. Oh, there's 61. We'll get another 10 or more.
Great. Well, are we ready to kick this off?
Yeah. Let me quickly introduce you.
Sure.
Yeah. My name is, for those of you that don't know, my name is Brad Waite. I have the pleasure of being the president of Sustainable Rossmoor. Also on this, this session today is Adrian Byram, who's Sustainable Rossmoor's chair of our Renewable Energy Committee and the brainchild behind all the work we've been doing this year on solar initiatives. And so today we have the pleasure of being addressed by Clint Biddle, who is the commercial business development manager for Solar Technologies. And I'm going to take the liberty of telling you a little bit about what my experience has been with Solar Technologies. As I think a lot of you know, that I was the chair of Sustainable Rossmoor's first committee, and the one that decided it was time for GRF to revisit the feasibility of putting up a 1 megawatt solar farm up by MOD. And so we lobbied the board hard to do that. Before we even talked to the board and mentioned it the first time, what we did is, several of us were turned on to one of our sister communities down in San Jose called the Villages, and they were starting down the path of putting up a solar farm. And so we contacted the chair of their committee, and he said, "Yeah, we are. Oh, you got to talk to Jeff Parr at Solar Technologies. Jeff is the president and owner of Solar Technologies." So we did, and we worked really, really closely with Jeff, for literally, probably months before we were, convinced that the project was financially feasible and could present it to the board. And so make a long story short, the board decided to go ahead and do that project. They hired William Golove, the solar consultant, to vet, the final, 4 candidates to do that job, solar contractors that Sustainable Rossmoor had proposed. Obviously, one of which was Solar Technologies, and Clint Golove, said, "Yeah, go with Solar Technologies." So the board did, and then the Golden Ring Foundation also, for their phase 2 solar, which is to put solar panels over the Gateway parking lot and some part of the parking lot of the event center, again, chose Solar Technology to do that. And I think some of you know, but not all of you, that about 6 years ago, Mutual 48 up in top of Ptarmigan, decided to start a group solar program, and they vetted a number of contractors to do that and picked Solar Technologies. And they've been doing that for the last 5 years, 6 years, and are very happy with it. So that's a long-winded way of saying that Solar Technologies knows their way around Rossmoor probably as well as any solar contractor, and has been thoroughly vetted. And so, obviously we can't officially give them a stamp of approval, but I worked real closely with Jeff Parr, for literally a year, and I've developed such a appreciation and trust for him that it's not hyperbole for me to say that I would trust my life to Jeff Parr. So to do the right thing, and so, but I want you all to have an opportunity to kick ST's tires, grill Clint thoroughly, make sure that you're happy. If in fact you decide the Solar Technology is the one you want to go with, if you want to do this project at all. Okay, so Clint, sorry to ramble on. Now it's up to you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Brad, and thank you everyone for being here. So I am Clint. I've been with Solar Technologies for 14 years. And I think our reputation probably precedes us a little bit with many of you, but for those of you who don't know us, I really appreciate that introduction, Brad. I'll say just a few words on us here in the beginning, and then we can jump right into the fun stuff. I do see in the chat, Ignacio has a question, and I'm going to keep that right in front of me on the screen, Ignacio, and I'll cover that when we get to that section of the presentation. So that is noted, and if I do forget it or skip it then feel free to bring it back up, but I've got it right in front of my face, so I don't think that'll happen. All right, so we've done a quite amount of work out at Rossmoor, as Brad touched on, and this is a project that we did for Mutual 48. Some of you may be familiar. This is a drone photo of that actual installation, taken what looks like in spring. Good looking photo, lots of green, so that's nice. And so we've done a fair amount of work out in Rossmoor. We've worked with some of the mutuals, and as Brad said, we're probably as familiar as any solar installer could be with you to start. So we do have that kind of familiarity going with us. Just to give you some context on the presentation today, we're going to touch on who we are at Solar Technologies just for a couple of minutes. I only have 2 slides on that. Then we will touch on how solar works, so kind of the functionality of the solar system very briefly, and then also with your utility and how the credit system works with the utility to actually save you money on your utility bills. We will touch on some of the benefits of going solar for the tax credit that there is for solar to save some of your investment right off the bat as a tax credit, as well as home value increasing, the benefit of the products that we're selecting, which are the Tesla ecosystem, and for most systems that won't have power walls, we are pairing that with the Solar Edge inverter, which is one of the premier inverter manufacturers in the industry. Then we will get into the actual solar offering. So your kind of menu of options between a direct connect system or an MV system and the different system sizes. And then some estimates of how much you can save with each system size. And then touch on the process at the very end there. So that is what we will be going through. And with no further ado, who is Solar Technologies? So you've heard a little bit about us, but we have been in business for over 22 years. We were founded in 1998 and have worked with many of the premier businesses in the Bay Area. So we've grown to be one of the largest, most accomplished solar integrators in the greater San Francisco Bay Area and really California as a whole. We have received SunPower's Dealer of the Year award 3 out of the last 8 years, and their National Dealer of the Year award in 2019. And in 2020, we were their #1 producer in the entire country. So we have offices now in Santa Cruz, San Jose, and San Ramon. Our San Ramon office was in Walnut Creek until several years ago. We moved it to San Ramon. But Jeff Parr lives in Diablo Canyon area and works out of the San Ramon office. And we have a large presence right there in your backyard. If you look us up on Yelp, we have almost nothing but 5-star Yelp reviews. We are Diamond certified. We have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. We are consistently ranked in the top 25 solar developers in California, and that includes some really large scale solar companies. We do everything from residential up to about 1,000 kilowatts, give or take. We do some projects that are maybe 1.5 megawatts. But that's kind of our small commercial residential niche that we work in. And we are one of the largest, most accomplished companies in that space. So we're very proud of that growth. And these are some of the companies that we've worked with throughout the Bay Area. I could probably have 10 slides of this, but we've worked with Comcast, we've worked with Oracle, we've done dozens of multifamily high-end apartment complexes for the Essex Property Trust. Orchard Commercial is the 2nd largest commercial real estate manager in Silicon Valley. We've worked with most of these school districts throughout the Bay Area, the Oakland Zoo. We've recently contracted with Specialized Bicycles, as well as Asus Computers. And we've worked with a lot of very high profile companies throughout the Bay Area. So we know how to win everything from corporate, high-end tech customers and corporate customers down to residential. So how does solar work? How is this actually going to kind of logistically work on your rooftop and all the way from there to your utility bill? Well, just kind of the mechanics of a solar system to start. You have these kind of key elements of the system. You have the solar panels up on your roof, which are of course taking the available sun energy that's in the sunlight and converting that into usable energy, which comes down through conductors off of the solar panels into an inverter. This inverter typically goes on the side of the home or the side of the building. And that inverter inverts the electricity coming off of the solar panels into exactly the right voltage and current for your electrical service. So the inverter is just kind of the middleman between the solar panels and your electrical service and the grid to make sure that everything is at a perfectly stable sine curve for your utility service voltage. So from there, from the inverter, it ties into your electrical panel and then spins your meter backwards, as they say, so that the utility will then track how much energy you are using or putting back onto the grid, as the case may be, much of the time, especially in the summer, but much of the time during the day in general. Then you also have your monitoring system where you will be able to log into a monitoring portal and view the system's production and functionality in real time. There's about a 15-20 minute delay, but basically in real time, as well as all of the historical data. You can download it into spreadsheets. You can run reports on specific time periods from this date to that date if you want to match it to, say, your PG&E billing cycle for that month, for example. So you have, very in-depth insight into the performance of the system with the online monitoring. So those are kind of the key elements of a solar system. You've got your panels, your inverter, the middleman between you and the grid, of course, your electric meter, tracking everything, and then the monitoring, which you can use to view, historical and basically real-time data. So you can always log in and see what your system is doing and what it has done. Now, how that really kind of translates on the billing side is that once you go solar, you switch to an annual billing cycle with PG&E. So you're currently on a monthly billing cycle with PG&E, but once you go solar, that becomes a yearly billing cycle. You will still pay about $10 a month to PG&E for what we call kind of your hookup fee, which you cannot get rid of no matter how much solar you put on. You could put 10 times more solar than you need on your roof, and you will still pay $10 a month to PG&E for your meter fee. But for your actual energy usage, you will be on an annual billing cycle. And the reason for that is that solar typically produces, where we are on the planet anyway, it ranges with your latitude, but where we are on the planet, the solar system is going to produce 2 to 3 times as much energy in its best summer months as it will in its worst winter months. So you want to be on this annual billing cycle so that you can accrue credit in the summer and use that credit at night or in the winter when the system is not producing any energy or less energy. So that is kind of visualized by this graph or chart rather, bar chart on the right, where you can see that, for example, you may owe PG&E money in the winter, but then in the summer, your system will largely overproduce, earning you a credit, which then will buy down your winter bills again. And the idea is at the end of the year, your bill mostly balances out depending on how it is sized relative to your usage. So you will switch to that annual billing cycle where you can accrue credit in the summer and use it to offset your winter bills. I see some questions coming through, so let me just read through some of these and see what is relevant. Wow, there's actually quite a few. Let's see here. Let's see, so we've got some warranty questions. Okay, I see Brad's response there. I suggest Jeff goes to play program. Is that relevant at all, Brad? I'm not sure what that's.
Yeah, he just wants you to go into presentation mode.
Oh, I see. He thinks I'm Jeff. Sorry. Yeah, Jeff.
Right.
Jeff is our owner. I'm actually Clint. Gotcha. So let me do that here.
And because I will admit our vision is typically not as good as it used to be.
In mine, let's see. Let me see if I can turn off subtitles. Are you seeing those subtitles on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Let me see if I can get those to go away. It's giving me options to move where they're located, but I don't see how
Yeah,
to.
that's a live transcript, and you can move what individuals can move where they show up, or if they displayed. But it's made available to everybody.
And who initiated, who turned that on?
I think I did. So it's my PowerPoint doing it.
Okay. And that's fine as long as it's not mine, because I don't want it freezing my Zoom session.
Yeah, and I see the settings options here allow me to move them to the side, above, below, but I don't see a way to actually just turn it off.
Yeah, they're actually showing up below, and I think a lot of people, some people were asking for exactly what you're trying to get rid of yesterday.
Oh, okay. So you would like me to keep the subtitles on?
So, some people would, yes.
Okay, good. Well, then we'll do that. All right. I thought maybe that it would be better to have the font be bigger with the full screen, but we'll just leave those on. All right. So you lose. So I'm just gonna rapid fire answer some of these questions. Do you lose your PG&E medical baseline assistance if you have solar panels? No, you don't. But the savings examples shown in here won't apply. So if you have a medical baseline, your bill is typically about 40%, I believe, less than what it would be without that baseline. So that basically means that if your bill would have been $200, it's roughly, $120 instead. So you have a longer payback with solar because you're getting such a discount on your energy price from PG&E as it is. So if it's going to be a 7-year payback for a standard customer, if you have a medical baseline, that might jump out to 11 or even a 12-year payback. So you won't lose that discount, but you have less savings potential because your starting place is at that discounted rate, if that makes sense. Does that answer the question sufficiently, do you think, Brad?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so that was that one. Please explain what happens when you sell a co-op. Does the solar connection go with the house? Yeah, so yes, so when you sell your home, you would sell your share of the solar system if it's in a shared system, or if it's directly connected to your electrical meter, then yes, it's already connected to your electrical meter, so it would go with the sale. But even if it's a shared system, you would sell your share, and then we would just need to update the PG&E information to include the new account owner's information so that those credits now go to them. So there is an important step there where if you sell your co-op, you do need to be sure to let the new owner know that once they have their PG&E account number and other data, basically their first PG&E bill will have all the data we need. We do need to send that information to PG&E so that they know to send those credits to that new account owner's account information. Otherwise, if you close your PG&E account because you don't live there anymore, the new owner is going to open their own account, and if that information isn't handed off to PG&E, they won't get the credits. But yes, it will essentially go with the house, exactly. And so I don't forget, I'll just go, let's see, I think we're just about to the section where this next question is going to come up anyway. So yeah, I'll come back to that. It's going to be right after this section. All right, so the benefits of going solar. So the first kind of benefit that you'll receive right off the bat is that there's a 26% federal tax credit for whatever you spend on your solar system. So just to make the math really easy, if you were to spend $10,000, you would get a $2,600 tax credit, which is a credit on your taxes. So it's not a write-off, it's a dollar for dollar credit where, let's just say you owed $10,000 in taxes for that calendar year. Well, if you had paid exactly that much out throughout the year to the federal government, to the IRS, they would write you a check back for $2,600. So you would get a refund check in the mail for $2,600. If you haven't paid them any taxes throughout the year, so now you owe them that $10,000 bill, and you have to write them a check for $10,000. Well, if you have that $2,600 solar tax credit, you would just deduct that amount from what you owe them. So that $10,000 minus the $2,600 would be $7,400 that you would then write your check for to them. So that's a dollar for dollar savings. So in that example, it would be $2,600, but it's just 26% of whatever you spend. And I do have examples for the system sizes coming up where you'll see what those amounts would be for each system size at the base price. So that is the first benefit. And you can't quite take this to the bank yet, but I will mention that there is the Build Back Better Act going through Congress right now that is expected to pass in the coming weeks. And if it does, as it currently stands, there's a provision in there that would increase this 26% back up to 30% where it was a couple years ago. So there's a chance that this 26% federal tax credit becomes 30%. Obviously, that's a net gain of 4%. So don't take that to the bank yet. Don't count on that, but that might be a nice little bonus that we get here soon. So another benefit is I forget whose question it was, but the person who asked, what happens with it? Does it go with the home? Yes, it does. And there is a fair amount of data out there showing that home buyers prefer a solar powered home when they're shopping for homes. So, I don't know what the percentage is there, but that looks close to probably 90% of people, when asked, say that they would prefer to buy a home that already has solar installed on it. And for those selling their home, most people believe that it would be an attractive selling feature. And then this study over here by Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, which was, I think, the largest sample size I've seen of 72,000 California homes. Granted, this data is a little old now. Basically, the bottom line will still hold true, which is that when you sell your home, the home appreciation value, or the increase in your sell price, has always been quite a bit greater than what the net cost of that system was to you when you put in the system. So that's generally due to the way that the system is valued based on the future savings that it will provide the prospective home buyer. But the bottom line is that even if you sold your home in 3 years, you would still recoup your investment and then some on the sale of the home. You would have, of course, saved money on your energy bills for 3 years, and then also sold your home at an increased value that was probably a net higher increase than what the solar system initially cost you. That's what the data shows. So those are some of the kind of side benefits of going solar on your home value. And homes also sell faster with solar. So not only do they sell for more money, but they tend to be on and off of the market faster as well. All right, so the benefits of Tesla panels, and this will tie into some of the warranty questions I was going to circle back to. So we are proposing the Tesla ecosystem here. These are Tesla's new 420 watt solar modules. And so they're high powered modules with a great warranty, but they also look really nice. So these are all black solar panels. They look very elegant on the roof, which for those that will be visible, I imagine that is a very nice feature. Some of these will be installed on flat roofs where they may not be visible, but for those on pitched roofs where they will be visible, these will look very nice. And then it sounds like this maybe hasn't been fully brought to the table yet, but we are offering Powerwall Plus, which is Tesla's brand new Powerwall product. They've had the Powerwall 1, the Powerwall 2, and now this is their third iteration, which they call the Powerwall Plus. And the Powerwall is essentially a way for you to have backup power when the grid goes down. We are only offering this for direct connect systems, of course, because it has to be directly connected to your individual co-op or Manners electrical panel in order to back it up. You can't really do it with a shared system because that shared system will not be interconnected to your actual electrical meter. It will only be getting, your meter would just be getting credits from that system. So these are only being offered with the 5 kilowatt direct connect systems, but for that system size, 5 kilowatts as a direct connect, you do have the option of adding the Powerwall, which will back up your home for, depending on your usage and the loads you tie in, potentially for days. Now, this will not back up your entire manor. It will back up select loads that we bring over. Well, actually, that might depend on the way your electrical infrastructure is set up. So yeah, we might have to think about that a little bit more. But long story short, this will offer you home backup that will be recharged by the solar system while the sun is shining. So depending on how much energy you're using, especially if you are cutting back on your energy use, this could potentially provide backup power ongoing for you in the event of an outage. If it's raining cats and dogs, and so your solar system isn't producing a ton of energy, it's possible that after 1 or 2 or 3 days, if it's not being recharged enough because there's very intense cloud coverage and say lots of rain, so not a whole lot of light energy is hitting the solar panels, it definitely could still run out of energy eventually, but it should provide you with that at least 1 to 2 days of backup. And if you're curtailing your energy and there's decent sunlight, potentially quite a while, a number of days. So that is the Powerwall Plus that is available for the 5 kilowatt direct connect systems. Going back to the solar panels and their warranty. So one of the questions in here from Anne is that she has read that Tesla's panels drop 80%, or if they drop 80% in efficiency within year 1, it would be considered acceptable and not covered by their warranty. No, that is not correct. I mean, I guess technically it would depend on the cause for that that reduction. And so to flesh that out a little bit more, they guarantee that under standard test conditions, their panels will follow this power production warranty. So the panel will produce more than this, which is 98% of the panel's rating in year 1. And then it goes down linearly at 0.54%, ending at 85% at year 25. So just from normal degradation of the silicon, which is a natural phenomenon that can't be avoided, but is still fairly minimal, where at the end of 25 years, so what are we talking about? That would be the year 2046. The panels are still guaranteed to be producing more than 85% their original power rating. Now, an example of where, let's say in year 1, the panels drop to 80% their nameplate rating because there's a bunch of dirt on your panels. That would be a lot of dirt. I mean, panels do not lose that much production from soiling, but if somehow there was just a giant pile of dirt on your panels blocking the sunlight, that is not covered by the warranty, because once you remove that dirt, it's going to go back up to its normal level. So that's just one example. But generally speaking, or technically speaking rather, this is their power guarantee here, where it's 98% of the original power rating in year 1, going down by 0.54%. And you can kind of get a pretty good idea looking at the online monitoring if it's meeting these thresholds. And if it's suspected that it is not, we would have to actually go up to the roof and test the panel at the panel level to determine if it's meeting this threshold. It is extremely, extremely rare that panels degrade any more than this. But in the event that they do, you would be covered under warranty. And the warranty covers, just kind of a perfect segue, all labor and shipping and parts required for the installation of the remedied product, the new panel, or inverter or power wall. So you have great coverage there if it happens, but that would be extremely, extremely rare. These companies do not thread the needle on that power production warranty because they expect it to typically be half or so, half-ish of whatever they're going to guarantee, because they don't want to be honoring lots of warranties due to power degradation, which is a normal process But luckily with silicon as a substrate, it's really very low. It's less than 0.5% per year typically, and a lot of times down around 0.2, 0.3%. All right, there was another question here, I think, related to the warranties. Okay, so does Solar Technologies guarantee the performance of the system? And if so, where's that in the contract? So the answer is no. Solar Technologies does not guarantee, an amount of energy that the system will produce. What you do have, again, is you would essentially fall back on the power performance warranty from Tesla. So the same 98% going down to 85% over 25 years. And I'm not really aware of any residential solar company who in-house or even a third party out of house that would offer a power production guarantee on residential solar. I don't really have my main focus in residential solar. I'm more with our commercial team. So maybe there's something out there that I'm unaware of, but I did do residential solar for 8 years. So I've never heard of a guarantee on that. Typically that falls back on the manufacturer's warranty. And if there were to be a guarantee, then it would come at a cost. It would basically be an O&M contract where there's someone actually monitoring the system, making sure it's meeting the thresholds. And we do offer that on the commercial side. And what I can say is that on the commercial side, pretty much any customer who has signed up for an O&M and monitoring and performance warranty as kind of an a la carte add-on to their project, basically all of them come back after 2, 3, 4, 5 years and say, okay, the system just works, it's reliable, it's always doing what it says it's going to do, what you said it was going to do. Why am I paying an extra X amount a month, adding up to X amount a year, which for a residential project, it would probably be hundreds of dollars, not thousands, but still, why am I paying these extra hundreds of dollars every year for this sort of insurance program that I am, never have to capitalize on? So, the kind of philosophy that we've had from doing this for 22, 23 years is we've learned the lessons that if you go with crappy equipment, you're likely to have problems and probably not the best warranty coverage when the time comes if you need it. But if you go with a good installation company that offers good workmanship and knows what they're doing, and if you pair that with quality equipment, then you set yourself up for success. And these solar systems have very little problems over time. They're extremely reliable. It's a mature technology, and if it's done right with good equipment, it really isn't necessary to pay extra for additional O&M insurance. So that's kind of our philosophy there. Our customers who have moved forward with that product or those products typically like to cancel them with after 3, 4, 5 years. And we don't really recommend them. And I don't think they're even available for residential. But if there's sincere interest in that, given the information I just kind of went through, then we can. I could look into it. Just going to go through.
And can I ask a quick follow-up question on this?
Please.
And by any chance, is there anything in the Solar Edge inverters warranty like this extra linear power output warranty that Tesla offers on the panels?
That is a good question. Not that I'm aware of. I'd have to go through and read it. So they might guarantee the efficiency of their inverters, which are typically around 98%, which is pretty much all solar inverters are around 97 to 98.5%. That's kind of the range of efficiency. And there might be something in there that does guarantee some portion of that range, or I don't know if they guarantee the entire 98% or whatever the rating is on that individual inverter. But I can make a note to look into that.
Okay, because if it did, you couple that with the Tesla warranty, then in effect, doesn't that give you a performance guarantee in effect?
Yeah, it pretty much does. That's the thing, is that if you're looking at the monitoring and the system seems to be underperforming, the first thing to think that we look for is there soiling? Is there dust? Is there pollen? Is there particulates accumulating on the panels? Maybe you have kind of, I don't know, presents from birds that have piled up on there for some reason. And cleaning the panels would be the first thing to look into. And if the production is still low, then we would go out and we can actually test the panels and see if they're below their performance warranty threshold. That is extremely rare. It almost never happens. I don't even know if I can't think of off the top of my head of that ever happening. We've gone out and tested, but they've never been below. So I'm just going to flesh out this note. Performance guarantee for Solar Edge.
Okay,
Yeah, so I'm
thanks.
I think we've got some more questions here. I got 13 new messages. Let me scroll down a little bit. All right, so keep subtitles. That won't happen until we file 2022 taxes with our proposed schedule, right? Yes, so the tax year that you are eligible to claim your tax credit, the first tax year, is the year that the system is completely installed. And I must give the disclaimer that we do not offer tax advice. We're not authorized to give tax advice. So none of this is intended to be tax advice, but I will just speak generally on the topic that it is our understanding that the IRS language that stipulates when you can take the tax credit is when the system is quote unquote placed in service, and the industry accepted definition of placed in service is that it has been completely electrically interconnected to the electrical service it's connecting to. So basically whatever year the system is completely installed, that is the first year that you are eligible to claim the tax credit. So yes, that would be on that would actually not be on this year's taxes. That would be on, assuming we get all these systems installed next year, which we will, that would be on next year's taxes, 2022 tax year, which you would file in 2023. So hopefully that answers that question. What if you have no tax liability? If you have no tax liability,
You get no benefit.
you get no benefit under the current legislation. So
Well, I mean, let me correct that. If for next year you have no tax liability, you're allowed to carry it forward one more year. So you could carry it forward to 2023.
correct. Yeah, you can
Just
carry.
1 year? Excuse me, that's just 1 year you can carry it forward?
Yes,
I thought it was a tax credit. It goes against anything, right? I mean, if you never have tax liability, I guess it can't go on anything. But
right.
yeah, it offsets even the minimum income as a tax credit.
Again, it's a dollar for dollar tax credit. If when you,
Oh,
as
yeah.
Clint said, when you calculate your tax return, if there's no liability shown before any payments you've made, then you can't use a credit that year. And obviously then hopefully the following year, you do have a liability. Well, actually, hopefully you don't have a liability, but if you do have a liability, then you can potentially take it that way. But again, as Clint said, we are not offering tax advice.
Right, thank you. That's good.
Yeah. So under the current legislation, if you do not have any tax liability, the tax credit is of no use to you because it will only wipe out owed taxes. Now, under the new legislation that is expected to pass in the coming weeks, where I mentioned the 26% is expected to go back up to 30%, there actually is a direct pay provision in there, which would apply to, I know that it would apply to commercial entities, non-residential entities that do not have tax liability. I do not know if it would apply to residential systems to individuals who do not have tax liability. So that is another thing that I could look into, but that legislation also hasn't passed yet. So I don't know if we want to put the cart before the horse.
No,
Okay, yeah, so maybe we'll table that one, but there's a possibility. I have no idea, because I really don't know on the residential side of that. But it's possible that something could change there with that legislation. And if we get there, I will absolutely share that news with Brad and Adrian, and they can share that with the group. All right, so that was that question. Mariana, since it is not actually going to be on our homes, but on a carport, we could theoretically sell our share before selling the home to someone else in the mutual.
yes.
Yeah, I suppose you could. I hadn't really thought about that, but yeah, there's no reason that you couldn't.
Right. Again, just so we're clear, that's as long as it's a share, you're part of a shared system.
Correct. That is for the shared NEMV system, which is the virtual credit system where you'd have a shared system and the credits going out to the different homeowners that have their shares. And yes, you could sell that share to someone else. They would have to be in your same mutual. Yeah. All right. Can Powerwall be added later? For direct connect systems, yes, Powerwalls could be added later. We probably would not be coming out to do one-off Powerwall installations. Well, actually, maybe we would. Maybe we could through our standard kind of residential department. So the way that we are orchestrating this group purchase now is kind of through our commercial division, because it's because of the volume and some of the systems being these NEMV shared systems will be larger systems that are kind of more like installing a commercial system. In the future, if you wanted to add a Powerwall, I don't see why that wouldn't just get routed through our normal residential division to come out and treat you like any other residential customer asking for a Powerwall. So yes, I think that would be just fine. Now, that would only apply again to direct connect systems, because it has to be directly connected to your specific electrical distribution for your manor. It would not work with an MV system. All right, we got Carol. I noticed that Tesla.com website, they are now selling 425 watt panels. They didn't show 420. Is there a difference? Yeah, so Tesla, I think, is reserving those 425 watt panels for them only, not for their dealer network. So that's just probably the little edge that they get. But they're the exact same panels. So if you look at the data sheet for this panel, which I could pull up, I don't know if that's necessary, but it basically lists a wattage range from I think it's 410 all the way up to 425. And they are the exact same solar panels. They're coming off the same manufacturing line. All of the technology is the exact same. The difference is that when this silicon is grown in a semiconductor, it has varying degrees of purity or quality. And so when they slice up all of the silicon wafers from the rod and they sort them and then they put them into solar panels and they flash test them, they all came from the same manufacturing process. They might have even come from the same rod of silicon. But once they're actually in the panel and the panels flash test under basically their test conditions, which are in a vacuum with a certain set of conditions of temperature and sunlight, solar irradiance, all of this stuff, the panels will test, plus or minus 5 watts here or there, or 10 watts, or even 15 or 20. And so what they do is they sort those panels by how they tested into batches. And so this is pretty typical of basically any solar panel out there, is they'll have one spec sheet for the same panel, and then they'll have their their 410, their 415, the 420, and the 425. And it's just those panels that happen to flash test at that rating, even though they're all the exact same materials and went through the same manufacturing process and plant. So hopefully that kind of describes that process and why there's that varying range. And we have worked out our distribution deal with Tesla specifically for the 420 watt modules. And I believe that their 425s, they're reserving for themselves only. So for you, it would be the 420 watt panels. But I mean, what we're really talking about there is, a 1% difference roughly in panel production. So there's a negligible difference there, and it's the same technology, basically the same product. All right, Maxine is asking, what if the panels are destroyed due to a building fire? Hope we don't cross that bridge, but if we do get there, so the manufacturer's warranties cover manufacturer's defects in the products. So the functionality of the product as it was brought to you to perform. Now, acts of God are not covered. So, if a tree falls on your building, if the building burns down, you are going to lean on your insurance for those claims. So that would be an insurance claim. You should not have to purchase any special insurance specific to the solar system. It should be covered by your existing policy. you will want to tell your insurance agent that you have solar, but your cost shouldn't go up. They'll just note it, and now it is included in your insurance. So if the building is destroyed in a fire, including the solar panels up top, that would be an insurance claim, not a warranty claim.
And Clint, could I tag on that? And just so everybody's clear, it's not just acts of God. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's also things like insurrections, a number of different things that are your standard exclusions, that are above and beyond any control of the vendor, Solar Technologies, or the equipment manufacturer.
Mm-hmm. So I see now I've got 21 new messages. There's quite a bit coming in through the chat. So I think we're...
I warned you.
Yeah, I think we're over halfway through the presentation. I think at this point, I might just cruise through the rest of the presentation. I think some of what is in the presentation is going to answer some of these questions. Like the next one in line here will be answered by the presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the presentation and then come back to the questions.
Good idea.
Otherwise we'll probably end up there for the whole remainder of the time. So, so this is the warranty. This is what was covered in the warranty. And then this is just screenshots of the monitoring app for Tesla.
And that's only if you have the Tesla inverter, which we're not going to have on the...
Correct. Most of you will not have this. So most of you will have SolarEdge. And I could pull up, if that's helpful, probably pull that up within moments, a screenshot of the SolarEdge monitoring portal, but they all are pretty darn similar. I mean, basically they're showing what the system is producing right now in real time, and then it's curved for the whole day, and then there's a bar for every day of the week. You can zoom out into monthly views and yearly views, etc. So let's see. Man, how does their monitoring brochure not really have a proper screenshot? Well, I think we'll just kind of keep it moving at this point, but basically you will have in-depth, it's basically like a dashboard where you can toggle in and out of all of these metrics to view exactly what the system is producing, again, in real time, where it will show, the curvature of solar production for the day. And then you can look at every day of the week, every day of the month, every month of the year. You can compare month to months, prior years versus this year, etc. So you'll have a sophisticated set of metrics there where you can even pull that out into Excel spreadsheets and run deeper analysis, create your own charts and graphs if you're really well-versed in Excel. And yeah, you'll have a host of functionality there. All right, now getting into the actual offering and choosing your system. So this is the kind of pricing matrix and the menu of options. We have the direct connect option here on the left, and then we have your group shared solar system pricing on the right, which is also referred to as NEM-V, Net Energy Metering Virtual, which is the virtual credit system of sending credits to other meters. You'll notice that the pricing for the direct connect systems is a little bit higher, and that's because the build costs are higher when we're doing each system as its own individual system with its own conduit run and its own inverter and everything kind of on its own. There's obviously some scale with the shared system. Whoops, hit the mouse there. So this is your pricing for each of the direct connect systems. I'm not going to read out every one, but I will point out that this one here with the PW Plus, that is the Powerwall Plus option. One of the costs, so the next question in the chat here was, what is the cost of the Powerwall? So you can see here that the 5 kilowatt system standalone is $19,750. With the Powerwall, it's $36,750. So it's basically $17,000 for the Powerwall. Now you do get the 26% tax credit applied to whatever that cost is, including the Powerwall Plus, if you are selecting that option. So you can see the 26% tax credit amounts, and then your net cost after you have received that tax credit back from the government here in the far right column. Same thing for the NEM-V systems, the shared systems. And we've kind of had to keep this somewhat simple, just given the volume and the complexity of dealing with so many individuals. Wherefore, we have these basically 3 system sizes, and then the Powerwall Plus as an adder option for the 5 kilowatt system for the direct connect systems. We can be more flexible for the group shared system, because essentially whatever the total system size is, we are just filling out a form with PG&E. It's really a spreadsheet where we're saying this percentage of production down to 100th of a decimal point is going to this meter. So we can, if it's a 30 kilowatt system and everybody wants exactly a 3 kilowatt share of that 30 kilowatt system, in that spreadsheet, everybody would be getting 10% of the production from that system going to their meter. If 9 of them wanted 3 kilowatts and then 1 wanted 6 kilowatt, for example, the one with 6 kilowatts would just get a 20% share. So we can basically cut this up into any proportion we want amongst the shareholders. So this is basically the exact same price to scale. So it's just proportional as the system size increases in wattage or kilowatts, the price is going up in an exactly proportional linear fashion. And the idea there was to make this as simple as possible so that whether you're getting 2 kilowatts or 6 kilowatts, you're paying the same amount in your base price. Although there is a $500 administration or processing fee for shares under 6.72 kilowatts to kind of make up for the fact that there is a lot of administration work and contracting with each individual, et cetera, or each shareholder. But this is just, other than that, for the base price, this is just a linear progression as the system, as the wattage gets bigger in your share, your price goes up as well. And this assumes, we've kind of priced this, assuming that each system would hopefully average around 25 or 30 kilowatts. So the bigger these systems are each, the better. But there is a 14 kilowatt minimum for a NEM-V system. So the only way that these really make sense is if there is enough volume there to warrant the extra work associated with a shared system.
Can I just interrupt you here for just 1 second?
Sure.
The prices that were sent out in the preliminary quote are not what you're seeing here, because there are some additional costs associated with flat roofs. And there are some also costs associated with trenching and bringing in electrical service that have to be applied to each of these shared systems. And so the preliminary quotes that you have in your hands reflect all those additional costs, our best estimate about those additional costs. So it's this is sort of the starting price, then we added in those additional things. So I just want to make that clear, because if somebody looks at this, they will see a difference between.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you, Brad. So, so this is the matrix of the cost adders. So basically, the easiest way for us to do this was to say, okay, here's your base price. Each of these is going to have different build conditions and characteristics associated with it that do affect our pricing. So we kind of had to create this a la carte table of adders where, if it's a tile roof, it's a curved tile roof, it's a metal roof, it's a flat roof, with a foam coating or single ply, all of these things kind of have different cost associations with them. So we just created this table where, you have your base price, whether direct connect or shared, and then this table determines what additional costs would be associated with that system. So it sounds like Brad took the time and care to kind of go through and estimate what those costs would be before he sent those out to you. So thanks for doing that.
No, that was Adrian. Yeah, I don't get any credit for that.
Sorry, Adrian. Give credit where it's due. Thank you, Adrian.
Exactly.
All right, so that is the pricing. Moving on to kind of examples of how much you could save with each of these systems. So this is the 3.36 kilowatt system. This is at the direct connect base price of $15,750. You would have your 26% tax credit of about $4,000, bringing it down to about 11.6, and about a 7.3-year payback. I believe this information is more or less available to you from what Adrian has sent out already. Is that right, Adrian?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great. So I won't.
So went through a similar example. Yeah.
Okay, so I won't spend too much time going into the the details on each of these. You should have this information available to you to review. But that's an example for the 3.36 kilowatt system, about a 7.3-year payback. For the 5 kilowatt system, base price, net cost is about $14,600. Payback is about 6 years. And these are based on, the usage here that is quoted. So, if your system is a little bit oversized because your usage is a little bit lower, your payback will be just a little bit longer. And if it's undersized, your payback will be pretty close, possibly even a little bit better. So that's kind of how that plays into it. For the 5 kilowatt direct connect system with a power wall, you can see how that extra $17,000 affects the payback. It goes from 6 years out to 10 years. So those power walls are really there to provide you with the ability to back up your manor when the power goes out. It doesn't really add value from a savings perspective. It just adds value from a functionality perspective of you now can, have your lights on, you're not spoil your food in your refrigerator, et cetera, when the power goes out. So, I'm not familiar with how often the power goes out in Rossmoor. If it's, fairly infrequent, there might not be much of a value add there. There might not be a big use case for those power walls because it does not save you more money. It increases the payback, but the benefit is just that you have backup power when the grid goes down. So think about how often the grid goes down, and if it's, only once or twice a year for a day or two, is that worth $17,000 to you is kind of the way to think about that. Now the tax credit does apply to the power wall, so you get that tax credit benefit. But basically on a 5 kilowatt system, it's going to bring the payback out about an additional 4 years, from 6 to 10 years. For the larger system, the 6.72 kilowatt, gross base price cost is about $26,000, about $19,000 after the tax credit, and a 5.7-year payback. So as the systems get larger, the paybacks typically come down a little bit. So those are the estimated kind of savings and payback. That was basically it. So now for the process, just kind of a very brief slide on the tail end here regarding that. So basically the process from here, and Brad and Adrian, feel free to chime in if you've communicated otherwise or you have anything to add. But we've asked that you send in your selection for the option you would like to go with to Brad and Adrian by the end of this month, by November 31st. And we are sort of up against the clock here. So we're not just trying to rush you along for the sake of it. There is a big transition coming along with the credit system that affects how much you save with solar. And we basically have to get all of your applications in by mid-January is the current date that is expected. It could be pushed out to February or even late January, but it could be as soon as mid-January. So we want to be prepared to get all of your paperwork in, everything set up and into PG&E by mid-January. So that is why we would really need to have everybody's choices selected by then so that we can start to actually make it official by getting you to sign your agreement by about December 17th, where once we have all of the selections from Brad and Adrian, who will send that over, then we have the work to do of going through and saying, okay, there's this much interest in each mutual for direct connect systems on these buildings. Is there the roof space? And then for the shared systems, there's this much interest. Is there enough roof space for those? Where are we going to place those? How does that shake out? So we're going to have a huge kind of crunch of information to go through there to sift through all of that data, determine the feasibility, come up with the actual pricing for each option, whether it's direct connect or shared. You've got your base price and then the adders. So we're going to have to actually, look into what first we're going to have to determine where each set of panels or each system will go, and then the build conditions for each of those to come up with the end final price, and then put that into our agreement, and then send that back out to each of you directly to review and sign via DocuSign. Once you have signed up by December 17th, now we will get going on all of the PG&E paperwork. And then to follow that, the design and of course the installation of the project. And then you get to actually flip the switch and turn the system on once it's installed. So that is essentially the process. And that was my last slide here. So I will leave that slide up. Brad and Adrian, if you have anything to add, feel free to hop in, and then we can start to go through the list of questions that we have here.
Yeah, I've got a quick question for you, Clint, on step number 2, sign your agreement by 12/17. And so does that, with the Christmas and New Year's holidays coming shortly after that, does that give your team enough time to get the ICAs, the interconnect application, done by early January?
It should, yeah. I mean, we're targeting basically, roughly January 15th to have all of that done. It'd be good if we have it a few days earlier than that, but no one, so far, everything coming out of the CPUC has been mid-January at the absolute soonest is when they would come out with their final decision. So it's going to be a lot of work, and I would personally feel a little bit better if that date were moved up to December 10th. Jeff seemed to feel comfortable with the 17th. But yeah, I mean, if we can move it to the 10th, that would be great. And the kind of follow-up to that is that, we're not expecting everybody, if we set the deadline, the hard stop for December 17th, hopefully not everybody is going to wait until the 17th. We certainly appreciate anybody who can act sooner and get this, get their selections to us and then also sign their agreements in an expedited fashion, just because we are up against the clock. And if everybody waits until the 31st to even let us know, what they're interested in, then that puts us in a huge crunch to get everybody their agreements back within a couple of weeks so that they can sign them by the 17th. So, I mean, I'd say that these are kind of absolutely the furthest out we would want these dates to be. We were initially targeting, the 22nd, next Monday, the Monday before Thanksgiving, to have everyone's orders in, essentially, of what they'd like to do. And then we would start the feasibility assessment and then get your agreements turned around, the week after Thanksgiving, basically, for signature the following week. But
and Clint, that's the timeline we're driving to.
Yeah, and I don't want to deviate from that, Clint, because we need to get this done. We need to get you guys going, or else we just want to be sure that nothing falls apart here because suddenly CPUC makes some weird decision.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I agree. Let's not play with fire. We're trying to kind of be accommodating here, but it's probably best to be a little bit prudent and target, next Monday for having the orders in. We'll try to get the agreements turned around the first week of December, and then, signed by roughly the 10th or the 14th, something like that. But yeah, the sooner the better. We are definitely short on time. So anything we can do to set ourselves up for success is going to be huge.
Okay, and so just for the benefit of all the Rossmoorians on this call, just be aware that the deadlines, that the timeline that Adrian and I are gonna be driving to is gonna be tighter than Clint's. So, and that's why we need you to let us know, and by this Saturday, if you want to go forward with a contract from Solar Technologies, because then they've got to do the work to get that contract back to you so you can sign it. And we want to have those signed and back to them by December 2nd. Monday.
Yeah, if we could follow that original timeline that we had, Jeff had suggested that we, because there's murmurings that, you know, it might be late January or something for the final decision, you know, he was feeling okay being a little bit more accommodating or flexible here, but there's no guarantees on that. And then if we,
Right.
if we end up missing something, it's going to be a huge miss. So,
Right.
so yeah,
Right.
if we can stick with that timeline and that you think that works on your end, that would be very, very, very much appreciated. And I think
Yep.
set us up for success a little bit better. So,
Okay.
all right. So I can start going back through this list of questions here. So let's see, destroyed by fire. We got that one. Oh, what is O&M? O&M is operations and maintenance. So that would be, you know, for the questions related to performance guarantee, you know, if you're hiring what we call like an O&M contractor or entering an O&M agreement, basically they're going to perform operations and maintenance to make sure that they meet whatever that performance guarantee is. So O&M is operations and maintenance. Who pays for the installation of defective panels, etc.? Great question. So Tesla's warranty covers the products itself and all of those materials. It does not cover the labor. So you would pay the labor for us to actually climb up on the roof, remove the bad panel, and reinstall the good new panel. And that's you know, fairly standard. This is kind of a horrible analogy, but it's kind of the one that comes to mind. For example, if you were to buy like a, I guess it's not that bad of an analogy, but if you were to buy an air conditioning unit that were to go outside your home, the manufacturer of that air conditioning unit is going to cover, you know, the parts, or if you need let's just say an entirely new air conditioning unit under and it's covered under warranty, they'll provide you that new unit. But the HVAC contractor that installed that unit isn't going to come out and perform that work for free, right? They're not backstopping all of the manufacturers saying, you know, if the rest of your life, if your air conditioning unit ever breaks down and they send you a new one, we'll come out and reinstall it for free. That's typically not covered. It's typically the products that the manufacturers are covering, not the actual labor to swap them out if needed. How often do the panels need to be cleaned? That is a great question, and kind of just now starting to change the way that we approach this discussion, where in the past, it's really been, you know, depending on your microclimate, if you're next to like, you know, an agricultural setting or a freeway, you know, maybe it's once a year, but barring anything like that, it's probably, you know, more like every 2 to even 4 years. What has kind of changed that more recently are these
Wildfires.
unprecedented wildfires, exactly, that we've had, where, you know, when all that smoke flies overhead, you might notice on your cars or on your windows, but your windows are vertical. These solar panels are, you know, tilted, but they're not vertical. They're closer to flat than vertical. So those leave behind a lot of ash and debris that gets on the panels and does affect the production. It's usually not detrimental. If it's really, really bad, it might be, you know, 8 to 10% loss is what we've seen after those fire events. More when the actual smoke is overhead. And then once the smoke is gone, just from the ash and all the debris left behind, it can, and if it's really bad, reduce production by about 10% roughly. So if that continues to be the new normal, which of course we all hope it doesn't, but if it continues, then you may want to consider cleaning your panels, you know, every 2 to 4 years as previously described under normal conditions, but also after a significant fire event, if there is one. So that may not be every year, and it's a little bit more subjective than objective, because if it's just, you know, a little bit of smoke that went over, it's probably not that big of a deal. But if there's a significant fire event that really caked a lot of ash on them, it's probably a good time to clean them. So let's say probably 1 to 3 years is about the range you'd be looking at there. And most window cleaners do offer that as a service. So I don't know if, you know, mutuals typically employ any sort of window cleaning services to do the exterior windows of everybody's condos or manors. But, you know, if you have a window cleaner that you use, most of them are starting to incorporate solar panel cleaning into their product offerings. And it's pretty affordable for, like, you know, especially if you were to kind of group up and have a bunch of the mutuals do it at the same time. I imagine, let's say they come out to one mutual and there's, 2 or 3 NEM-V systems and a handful of direct connect systems, you're probably looking at something like, I would guess something like $5 or $10 a panel. So it's not going to be a huge cost. All right. You just kind of get a feel for how many questions there are, and quite a lot. Okay, I don't know how in depth I'll need to go on each of those. So I'll try to kind of be brief, and if we really need to dig in deeper, we can come back to some. Where was I? Way back up. Okay, material we received says Solar Technologies warranty on inverters is only 10 years. So it is 12 years for SolarEdge. It is 10 years for SolarEdge. And for Tesla, if you have the Tesla Powerwall, and it's part of their ecosystem installation, which is how we would plan on doing those, the standard Powerwall warranty is also 10 years, and their inverter is built into the Powerwall now with the Powerwall Plus. But under their ecosystem umbrella warranty, it's actually 25 years. So if you go with the Powerwall system, with the 5 kW direct connect system, it should be actually 25 years for the panels and the Powerwall, which includes the inverter. But if you're anything else, the SolarEdge inverters are 12 years. And yes, the panels are 25 years, which is the next line of that question. All right, next one. In the information document we received, SolarTech says, Solar Technologies is proposing to install Tesla 420 watt panels together with SolarEdge inverters. These are state-of-the-art components and come with a 25-year warranty. So the inverter is also warranted for 25 years. Okay, we just went over that. If it's integrated with the Powerwall, yes. If it's not, it is 12 years for the panels specifically. Why are you proposing SolarEdge inverter instead of the Tesla inverter? So the SolarEdge, the Tesla inverter is only available inside of their Powerwall Plus. So they do not make a separate inverter. It only comes with their Powerwall. So there's no way to get a Tesla inverter unless you're ordering a Powerwall Plus. It has to be a Powerwall Plus because even their prior Powerwalls, the Powerwall 1 and 2, did not have an integrated built-in inverter. Only the new Powerwall Plus has it, and it's built into the Powerwall, so that is the only way to get it. So we have to use a separate manufacturer for the inverter because Tesla does not make them other than integrated into the Powerwall. Your contract says ST does not cover roof leaks caused by the installation of the system. That's not technically exactly what it says, but let's just read the rest of this. It is the responsibility of the roofing contractor and only for 1 to 5 years, depending on the roofing contractor. I thought Solar Technologies was offering a 25-year warranty of the system. Please explain who would pay for the repair of the roof, the damage done to the manor. Okay, so I sent out a pretty detailed kind of breakdown of the warranties to Brad that I think he may have sent out. But so Solar Technologies is not offering a 25-year warranty of the holistic system. That should never have been expressed. If you saw that somewhere, that was incorrect. That shouldn't have been promoted anywhere. We've gone through the panel warranty and the inverters warranty, the Solar Technologies warranty. The only warranty that Solar Technologies provides is for our workmanship. So we have a workmanship warranty, which is 10 years. Now we will also coordinate on any manufacturer's warranties. So if you have a Tesla warranty or a SolarEdge warranty issue, we will, fill out the paperwork. We will follow their RMA process, which is the warranty claim process to get the new product and all of that. So you're not going to be dealing with, Tesla or SolarEdge directly, actually fighting for a warranty claim. We will manage all of that for you. But the only warranty that we actually provide from ourselves is our 10-year workmanship warranty. If it's a flush roof system or a pitched roof that we are installing the solar panels flush on top of, we generally perform the roofing work ourselves And so in that case, the roof leaks are covered by us directly. But for flat roofs, we do not perform the roofing work. So we would employ a separate professional roofer to come out and seal those roofing penetrations, because flat roofs are more complex and it really requires a professional. And sometimes if you have like a Duralast membrane roof, Duralast will require that a certified Duralast roofer perform that work and follow their best practices and document it and send it to Duralast in order to uphold your warranty with Duralast for the product of the membrane roof. So for flat roofs, there's a more involved process that needs to be followed, and it really requires a professional roofer. So we will pull in that roofer, and because they're the ones performing that work, they will be the ones to provide the warranty for that work. For any flat roof work, the typical warranty range that they provide on their workmanship is usually 1 to 5 years, and it will depend on the roofing material, the roofing type. So is it a Duralast membrane roof? Is it a PVC membrane from some other manufacturer? Is it a foam coated roof, or is it a cap sheet that was rolled out and adhered to the roof by a torch down method? You know, each of those are going to have different standard workmanship warranties that that roofer will provide. But even for the roofs that you already have on your buildings, all of the roof work that you've already done isn't really different from what, you know, will be happening with our system. You already have vent pipes, skylights in some cases, and other, you know, vents like fans for, you know, bathrooms, or maybe hoods for your ranges. I don't know what all the vents are that you have on your roofs, but you definitely have many roof obstructions sticking up out of your roof, and they have all been flashed and sealed into that roofing system. The same exact process will be followed to seal the penetrations that we make with our solar mounts. And there's again, just like there's manufacturer and workmanship warranty with the solar products and installation, same thing with the roof. Your Duralast membrane roof might have a 20-year product warranty from Duralast, but the roofer that actually installed it and sealed all of the vent pipes and skylights and everything into that roofing system, typically still, if you look at your warranty documentation, they only provided typically a 1 to 5 year workmanship warranty for the work that they did. You might have that 20-year product warranty with Duralast or whoever the roof product manufacturer was, but the roofing company that installed it typically only offers a 1 to 5 year warranty on flat roofs. So it's going to be the exact same process that you've already experienced with any other roofing work that you've done there. There isn't anything too special about that for the solar system. So hopefully that covers that one. Brad and Adrian, if you have that, I think it was Brad that I sent it to, if you have that email I sent where I kind of go through that in more detail, breaking down every warranty. If you want to send that out to everyone, that could be a great follow-up. And we've got many, many more questions, so I'll keep it moving here. If I go with an individual system, am I assured of getting the NEM2 rate for selling / getting credit for electricity produced? No, you're not. So we will not know the exact terms for NEM2 grandfathering until the final decision comes out in January. It is expected that for residential individual systems, and really any system under 30 kilowatts, it is expected that getting an initial application into PG&E before that decision will be enough to get you grandfathered on NEM2 once we follow up with the back-end forms and the actual installation of the system. But that is not guaranteed or set in stone as of yet. So it is possible that in the January, or if it ends up being February, in that final decision, whenever it comes out, that there will be restrictions on NEM2 grandfathering. I'm not even going to go into what all those potentially could be, but it could mean that basically what we're hoping for, where we can just lock you in with an initial application now, will not be enough. It's possible that you would not get grandfathering. So obviously at that point, we would go back to everybody. We would let you know the implications. And we've established that when you sign up for your system, we would collect a $1,000 deposit from everybody, which is just our typical process. And for anybody who later decides to cancel due to that NEM 2 decision coming out unfavorably, where you are not able to get grandfathering, would be able to cancel, and we would retain half of that $1,000 deposit. We would retain the $500 for all of the work that we had put in up until that point, which is going to be a lot of hours that we're going to have to put into, all of the feasibility, all of the contract signing, and the PG&E paperwork to get all of these submitted before that final decision comes out. So no, you are not guaranteed NEM 2. And if the decision comes out unfavorably and you want to cancel, then you can. We would just retain $500 of your $1,000 deposit and refund you the other $500. Under NEM 3, so in kind of this worst case scenario where you don't get grandfathered, it's not like 100% of the benefits of the system will go away. You will almost certainly still retain the majority of the savings that you would have had. We don't know if that's going to be, the solar savings could potentially be like cut in half under NEM 3. So if you were going to save, $3,000 a year on your bills, that could potentially go down to $1,500 a year. So at that point, you would decide, we would let you know what the implications are, and you could decide, gosh, it just doesn't seem worth it for me to save $1,500 a year when I was hoping for $3,000. I need to cancel. Or it might be, $2,500 or $2,000. We don't know what the exact impact will be, and we won't know until that decision comes out. So unfortunately, we are dealing with some unknowns, and that's just the landscape that we have right now. So hopefully that answers that question, and that's a very good thing to be aware of, because it is not guaranteed at this point. We're gonna have to see what happens with that decision. Next question from Tip. Do you offer individual information per homeowner? I'm not exactly sure what specifically you're requesting there, but basically because of the volume here and how much activity we have going on, we basically have unprecedented amounts of interest coming our way that has been building up, for the entire year at this point, where we do not have the capacity right now. We don't have the bandwidth to meet with every single one of you individually. So we are having to go through this group process. So this is the process that you've seen here. You have your menu of options. We are kind of doing this filter up, filter down approach with questions. Obviously, we're doing a big Q&A now, but if for additional information, you can email Brad and Adrian. They will aggregate those questions into kind of a list for me, send them over, and then I will send out back all of the answers. So, we essentially do have individual information per homeowner, but it's all through this group process. And once you express interest with the option you would like to sign up with, then we start our feasibility, and we will send you back an agreement with the exact, terms of your specific system or share of a system, including any of those cost adders that are above the base price. Next question from Jay. When panels wear out, can they be recycled into new panels? Yes, so there's actually a lot of development in the recycling of end of life cycle solar panels. So that is absolutely a thing. And that is where your panels will end up. That is likely, 40 years down the road. These panels are expected to last, 35, 40 years. So that is a long ways away. And they wouldn't be like recycled into new panels that you would then directly, put back on your roof, but they would go and get recycled into something. And you might be able to buy panels at that point that were from recycled silicon and materials from other solar panels. So essentially, yes to that question. Who is SunPower that rates your company so highly? Does Tesla make your panels? Yes, so SunPower is a separate company. They are one of our closest partners, and they are just one of the biggest names in solar. and we've won a lot of awards from them. But yes, your offering is with Tesla solar panels. So we don't just work with Tesla. We don't just work with SunPower or just one panel manufacturer. SunPower is a separate company, but they are one of the largest names in solar. They are the largest name in domestic solar here in the United States, other than, I suppose, Tesla, which is now becoming kind of the second. But SunPower is still quite a bit larger than Tesla when it comes to solar at this point. But yes, your offering is with Tesla solar panels. I was just mentioning SunPower because of the awards that they have given us. All right, next question. My insurance agent indicated that you would need to add it to your policy. I have a AAA. I have AAA. I'm assuming that's your insurance coverage is with them, and he thought it would be an extra $40 to $50 per year. Okay, maybe that is changing. Thank you for that feedback. So for everybody out there, Carolyn heard from her insurance agent or broker that it could add $40 to $50 per year. I haven't really heard of that before. For the most part, all of the feedback we have received from homeowners and business owners alike is that they basically tell their insurance carrier that they have solar and it is then covered. Very, very rarely have we seen folks incur an extra charge, but that is possible. And it sounds like Carolyn was told it might be $40 or $50 a year. So not a huge amount.
Brad, may I offer a comment?
Sure.
So in Third Mutual, it's going to be required to get a $1 million liability policy with Third Mutual included as an additional insured. And that's needs to be thought about ahead of time because it doesn't come easily and you have to talk to your insurance agent about it. It only applies to Third Mutual as far as I know.
I just spoke with Milford Waldrop, and he said that requirement is dropped as of today.
Actually, it's not. We have just consulted with our lawyer and he says, do not drop that. You must keep that in there.
Well, I had a very difficult time getting the mutual to approve my Tesla wall charger for my Tesla. And because no insurance company will include a homeowners association as an additional insured. It's just not possible.
Yeah, so we're working on that, but as of now, I just asked my insurance company and they did it for me. So
Oh, wow.
it's going to be a requirement and you probably need to know about that.
Yeah.
$1 million
Okay.
liability policy costs $203 a year with State Farm. That's what I
Oh,
have
I'm
down.
sorry. I misunderstood. I thought it was including the mutual as an additional insured.
Yeah, that is also a requirement.
That's what I was referring to. Yeah, but I do understand that you have to have at least $1 million liability. Yeah.
Can we get back to First Mutual and Second Mutual?
Okay.
Yeah, so I would suggest that we maybe table the insurance because that could be handled outside of this meeting and we have a fair amount more questions.
Good idea.
So I'd like to continue on with the questions that we have in the chat here that pertain directly to kind of this meeting. And the next one in the line here would be, do you offer the same terms for the commercial division as the residential division for a group of 10 residential users? I guess the question there is if a company or a group of companies wanted to buy 10 commercial systems, would they be able to do a shared system? Not really. It doesn't really work that way. They'd have to be all on the same campus. I'm not really sure what that question is. If you'd like to reach out to me directly, if you have commercial needs, then let's deal with those separately and focus on the Rossmoor residential offering now. But absolutely, we offer commercial solutions. We're one of the largest commercial installers in the Bay Area, and be happy to help you with that. I just don't quite understand the question. Yeah, I mean, if there's a group purchase of commercial customers, yeah, we could absolutely look into that, but we don't have like a standard group offering. That's kind of uncommon in commercial solar. Next question, how many panels are required for 5.04 kilowatts? I believe it's 12. Let me do some little math here. So each panel is 420 watts, and 5.04 kilowatts is 5,040 watts. So if I just divide 5,040 by 420, I get 12. Well, I don't know if my phone's not coming up on the screen there, but it's 12. So if you're ever wondering how to calculate that, you just take the total wattage, which in this case is 5.04 kilowatts, or 5040 watts, 5,040 watts, divide it by the wattage of the individual panels, 420 watts, and you get the number of panels. Hopefully that made sense. But short answer is it's 12 panels. The 3.36 kilowatt system is 8 panels, and the 6.72 kilowatt system is 16 panels. So you basically have 8, 12, and 16. 4 additional panels as you move up in size. Next question, why is my cost for participating in a shared system more expensive than just getting an individual system? In most cases, it won't be. So the base price is less for a shared system. So it's, for example, for a 3.36 kilowatt system over here, it is 15,750. It's 12,432.
Hey, Clint, Adrian addressed the Rossmoor nuances of that, and that's just because most of the shared are going on flat roofs, as they added for that. There's trenching involved, etc.
Yeah, so it's not an easy answer because each of these systems at the end of the day will be a snowflake. So it sounds like, Adrian went through and said, okay, for your mutual, you're going to have, we expect these build conditions, therefore these cost adders. So, this would be your price likely for each option. And that's why you might see some differences there.
Right.
But the pricing, there are reasons behind all of that. And I don't know if we have the time to dig into every combination that there could possibly be between all of those.
No, don't try.
Yeah. All right. So the next question, the other vendor is proposing sun power panels, which have built-in mini inverters, which are micro inverters is the term for that. Can you comment on the pros and cons of built-in versus separate standalone?
Hey, Clint, I would pass that one to, well, that's not true. Yeah, go ahead and do that.
Yeah. So the benefits, there aren't huge benefits or drawbacks, other than I would say the sun power panels having those micro inverters built in do have a 25-year warranty on the inverters, on those micro inverters as well. So they consider that, they call that an ACPV panel, where the panel and the inverter are actually the same product. They are integrated, and so they actually are the same product, even though it's a panel and a microinverter just combined. So you do have a 25-year warranty for those inverters, or each of those microinverters on the back of each panel. It's part of the panel warranty. Whereas with our standalone inverter, it is a 12-year warranty. So I would say that is the biggest difference between those two. As far as performance or actual yield off of the system, the generation of it, they're going to be the same because solar edge inverters use power optimizers, which achieve the same efficiency goals as microinverters do. I won't go into the kind of the reasons there, but basically there is still a power optimizer on the back of each panel that is optimizing the power of each individual panel, just like a microinverter does when it's on the back of each panel. So as far as production goes and the yield of the system, there's not going to be any benefit to one or the other. But with Solar Edge, you do have that central inverter that everything goes to. It's not all getting inverted at each individual panel. It's all coming back to that one inverter, and that inverter has a 12-year warranty. So that is potentially I suppose, disadvantage of the Solar Edge inverter. Is just that it's a 12-year warranty versus the 25-year warranty. I'll mention that you can typically purchase a 20 or I think even a 25-year inverter warranty extension. So you can purchase a warranty extension to bring that up to 20 or 25 years with SolarEdge. And for these system sizes, it's probably like, you know, $200 to $400 roughly to do that. So for a small additional fee there, you can accomplish that. But I'd say that's the main difference there. Would you please equate a 5 kilowatt system to a number of panels? Okay, we just did that. So it's 12. 12 panels for the 5 kilowatt, 8 for the 3.3, 6, 12 panels for the larger 6.72. So 8, 12, and 16. Why is there a need for an on-site feasibility for Mutual 70? So Mutual 70 appears to have kind of the most complex build conditions from Mutual. It looks similar to Mutual 48, where we just have some experience of some challenges there where you know, the conduit runs were particularly challenging, especially with these kind of taller buildings where the ground is sloped away from them. You know, typically what we like to do is get a scissor lift in, a man lift, where we can just, we're right up against the wall, it's on flat ground, we have to be able to get it there on flat ground, it has to be on flat ground, and then we can use that scissor lift to go up and down the building for our conduit runs. It's really difficult to do like a 3-story conduit run or even a tall 2-story on a ladder. And especially if the ground around it is sloping away from the building, it becomes very difficult. So that's just one example, but you know, I haven't even dug into the individual build conditions at each site as much as our operations team and Jeff have. But there were just concerns around specific things like that that we want to be able to assess before we rubber stamp price, just because it doesn't sound like much, but that can add a lot of complexity to the installation. How often have you experienced installed panels causing leaks in roofs? Not very common. So this is very uncommon. We typically are the first person that gets called when there's a roof leak. So for example, I just had a customer, you know, we just installed a system for one of my customers that called, you know, we're the first person they call because we just installed their solar system and they have a roof leak. When we went out to inspect it, there was a pretty good sized hole in their roof that wasn't even near where we had performed work. And this is a flat roof. And inside that hole, there were basically a family of mice had made their home. There were mice in there, there were mouse droppings everywhere. They had chewed through the roof and created a little home in there. And that's where all the water was going in. So, you know, we get called as the first person because we were the last person out there, but it's very rare that there's actually a leak due to our work or the roofing contractor that we partner with.
Hey, Clint, Clint, do you offer mice damage warranty?
No, we don't. I wish we could, but no, we don't. So roof leaks, you know, again, and that's where you want to be sure that you're doing this work with a contractor that you trust, that hopefully have some experience with, where, you know, I don't think we've had any roof leaks with our prior installations with you at Mutual 48, none that I'm aware of. And if we have, then I think you would find that we take those very seriously and we honor our warranty, and we definitely press any roofers that we work with to come in and honor their warranty as well. So again, you just want to make sure that you're working with organizations that do good work and are going to be there for you if you do have an issue. All right, November 30th is the end of the month. Yes, it is. That is not a question. It's just a statement. And it's actually, oh, okay, I see. They were pointing out that there is no November 31st. So correct, my mistake. So the end of this month would be the 30th. Point taken, and thank you for the clarification. If we sign by the 10th, will you start on that application right away? We will start on it as absolutely quickly as we can. I mean, if we get, you know, 70 of your applications, you know, all within a few days, we are not going to be able to start on every single one, you know, the day it's received or even the next day it's received. So we are going to get going on everything that comes our way as quickly as we possibly can in the order that it comes our way. That's kind of the best answer that I can give you there. You know, we have no idea what the volume will be. If we only get, you know, 30 folks that are interested, this is going to be pretty easy to manage. You know, if we get 100 or 200 or a very high level of volume, you know, we're not going to be able to get through all of that within a couple of days. That's going to take a little time. So we will move as quickly as we possibly can. But that, again, is all the more reason why we really would like for folks to act quickly and set us up for success and have as much time as possible. Next question is, how often do you have the panels cleaned and washed? We covered that, 1 to 3 years, and it's typically not very expensive. Has Mutual One approved the process of installing panels on carports? That is a question for someone other than me. You want to touch on that?
Okay, well, I can speak to that. My name is John Moe. I'm on the board for First Mutual, and I'm presenting. The thing is, our solar policy says we have to have equitable allocation, which doesn't work for shared solar, which is what we have to have. So I'm going to ask the board on Friday to change the language from equitable allocation to equitable accessibility. But and I'm hoping that they'll do it. And I've been trying to provide the board with information for them so they can understand some of the constraints, NAM2 and shared solar. But you know, it's 4 other people, and I can't guarantee that we'll be able to change our solar policy to allow shared solar. So that's where we are. You know, I've talked with Paul Donner, who is our fiduciary with MOD, and he agrees with me that we need to change from equitable allocation to equitable accessibility. He agrees with me on that. I have asked our attorney if she thinks that change in language is reasonable. Obviously, we can't be in violation of California state law. I haven't heard back from the attorney yet. So I'm going to present it to the board on Friday and ask them to make that change so we can do shared solar. But I don't know what they'll say at this point.
Okay, great. Thanks, John.
All right. That's the latest on that. Does the contract with you include 1 round of removal and reinstallation of solar panels when the roof is redone? No, it does not. So, you know, we would just charge an hourly rate for that, and, you know, time and materials, essentially, if any materials need to be replaced. But no, it does not include a free removal and replacement of the system for a re-roof process.
Clint, could you just touch on roughly how much does that cost these days to do that?
Yeah, it's gonna vary so greatly depending on the system size and what type of roof is it on. Is it a flat roof or a pitched roof? I
mean, I've heard numbers of $100 to $150 per panel.
Oh, per panel.
Does that seem?
I was going to say $100. There's no way.
Yeah. Does that seem reasonable to you?
You know, that seems a little low. I would guess that the range is closer to 200 to 250 per panel is the range that I would think is more reasonable. And it's really, I mean, it could even be $200 to $300 per panel, depending on what needs to be done and what the roofer needs removed. If we're just removing the solar panels and leaving all of the rail, you know, that's easier. If they want the rail removed, so it's easier for them to work around, you know, that would kind of get it up closer to 250 maybe, or even 300 in some cases. But if we're just removing the panels and they can work around the rail and the rest of the racking, I would think it's probably closer to 250 a panel is probably a safer number. Maybe it ends up being a little bit less, but 150 sounds pretty low. Because if you have an 8-panel system, I guess you're talking, you know, $800 to $1,200. Yeah, I mean, if it's a large system, if it's like a NEM-V system and it's like, 30 kilowatts, yeah, maybe 100, 150 is more reasonable. But if we're talking about, an 8-panel direct connect system off on its own on a single building somewhere in a mutual, it's probably closer to that 250 range.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's yeah, call it like 100 to 300, depending on the size of the system and what's called for by the roofer. Kind of a wide range, but I think there's going to be a wide range of circumstances and system sizes as well. All right, next one here is, I understand that large shared solar provides a lock on NEM2, but individual solar may not be locked onto NEM2. Is that correct? If that is the case, then individual installation is riskier with regards to NEM2. If the individual installation isn't approved for NEM2, what is the penalty to cancel the contract? So we covered that last part, the penalty, or want to call it the penalty. Yeah, we would retain $500 of your $1,000 deposit and refund the other $500 if you need to cancel. And it is true that, so really the threshold here with PG&E as they describe it, it's actually not, residential versus commercial or direct connect versus shared solar. The technical threshold that dictates the paperwork path and therefore the eligibility path is the size of the system. And about 35 kilowatts, or it's just over 34, I think it's close to 34.5 kilowatts, is the cutoff. So actually anything smaller than about 34.5 kilowatts DC, which you just 34.5 kilowatts basically, goes through what is kind of referred to as the residential path or paperwork process, application process. And it is everything in that category, anything smaller than about 34 kilowatts, technically is currently not guaranteed to get an M2 grandfather. Over 34 kilowatts, you go through a separate application process where it has been essentially promised that anything over that, if you get your application in before the final decision, it will be grandfathered. So that is the technical distinction. So hopefully that answers that question. So, we're gonna have to basically come back and reassess based on that NEM2 decision for anything under about 34 kW. Next question, we will only be putting these on carport roofs. So process should be similar to what was done near Gateway.
That's not true.
Yeah, so each mutual is different. I think maybe that might apply to mutuals 1 and 2, or
Yes.
yeah, some specific mutuals. So other mutuals can put it on their buildings. So anyway, I guess we'll just move on. The $40, $50 was for property, not liability coverage. Okay, so thank you, Carolyn, again. The $40, $50 that she was quoted from AAA, doesn't sound like that was a formal quote, but that was kind of the expectation from her agent or broker, was for property, not liability. All right, our initial timeline stated expected installation date was March, April. Yeah, we're generally targeting March, April, or Q2 next year. That could extend a little bit. I mean, we're kind of in this stage right now where we really have, more volume than we've ever had coming at us due to all of this. So it's a little bit crazy. And depending on how much volume there is coming from you and how much interest there is from all of you, that will also kind of dictate, we're probably not going to install every system simultaneously or congruently. So yes, I expect that we will start around March, April, and depending on how much volume there is with you, that might be a few months, give or take, until we have everything wrapped up. But that is the expected and planned timeline. Still a little bit subject to change depending on what all happens between now and the NEM2 decision. Your last slide suggested that installation was going to be November to November to December 2022. I'm assuming, which is probably the most realistic date. So no, sorry, these dates here at the end are the dates for you to get back to us. And really, we're not going by these dates. I think we just established it was going to be, you need to let us know what you want to move forward with by this Friday. We will then turn around we'll start our feasibility assessment and turn around your agreements as soon as we possibly can. After which we would like to have all of the agreements signed by about December 10th, but the sooner the better for all of the above. But that is completely separate. You know, the installations are scheduled, you know, more for like Q2, give or take, next year. All right. Wow, we are down to the last question. So the last question is, if PG&E turns off power on a sunny day, would an individual installation keep providing electricity? And the answer is no, not without a power wall. So the solar systems that don't have battery storage are required per the electrical code to go into a safety mode where they stop producing power actually up at the panels at this point. And that's where those microinverters up on the roof, if it's a sun power system from the other vendor, or if it's a power optimizer from SolarEdge with our offering, or even with Tesla, they would have their own rapid shutdown devices going from their inverter in the power wall up to the panels. The panels will go into a safety mode and they will stop sending energy off of the roof, or basically off of the panel, if the grid goes down. And that is a requirement under the the National Electric Code, the NEC. And that is so that if the grid goes down, and if you had a bunch of solar customers or solar generators still operating their systems, and they didn't go into that safety mode, they could potentially be putting all this current back onto the utility power grid, basically the PG&E lines, and PG&E comes out to service, or they shut down, you know, their generation, or maybe the power's already out, and then they go to service those lines, and they think that they're cold, but they're actually hot lines. There's still energy, there's still voltage, there's still current going through those power lines, and they need to be able to know for sure that those lines are down when they come out. So that's why all solar, unless it has battery storage and a controller and a critical load center, which is all built into that Powerwall Plus, that completely disconnects it from the grid to back up your home, you cannot operate once the grid goes down. You have to have that storage technology and that critical load center that completely disconnects you from the electrical grid, so that you cannot backfeed the power lines when the utility thinks they are down. So there's no way to do that currently without storage technology. So that would really just be the 5 kilowatt Powerwall Plus system in our offering. Everything else would go into a safety mode and would stop producing power off of the panels.
Great, and thank you.
Oh, there.
I think that's the end.
Yeah, that was it for the questions. If you have another, feel free to write it on in, but I think we covered it.
Yep.
Thank you, Richard. I appreciate that. He was pleased. Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks everyone for joining today. It's awesome to see. It sounded like we got up to maybe 60 folks, maybe some more added or more joined throughout the time here. But thank you so much for your time and for considering solar. We've done a lot of work out at Rossmoor, and you keep coming back for more. So that's awesome to see. Really appreciate all the enthusiasm. Thank you so much to Brad and Adrian for all the work that they've done and all the help that they've provided. And we'll look forward to working with any of you that are interested.
Great. And thank you very much, Clint.
Thank you, Clint.
Yeah, my pleasure. I will look out for any communications from you, Brad and Adrian, more questions that come up, or anything else that you need from me. I'm here anytime.
Sounds great. Thank you. And thank everyone for attending.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, good attendance.
Indeed.
Okay.